Okay, he's walking very slowly.
Very slowly. You don't want to be on target, does he? So
that was strange.
Like,
look, you've seen a lot of strange things.
This is Blairstown. This is where they filmed.
That was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is where they filmed one of the Halloween movies.
Was that a zombie?
The sales manager was clueless as to what the electric car was all about. Seriously, was clueless.
Yeah.
I knew more about it because of your son, because I had been watching the out-of-spec videos with Kyle. I got to get a car with better air conditioning.
So wait, you like me, if the air conditioner doesn't work, rather than fix the air conditioner, it's time for a new car.
Time for a new car.
I get that. I get that.
No
Peter.
question.
I understand that.
Yeah,
I get that.
42 cars later, you can understand it.
You have 42 cars?
42 cars.
Oh, that's a nice amateur attempt.
42
that's okay.
cars. I know. That's 2 years for you, but that's...
Welcome to another Out of Spec Dave video, where today I'm in, where the heck am I? Somewhere in New Jersey, and it's beautiful out here, I can tell you that much. And today I'm going to be doing a Your EV Journey video with my friend Peter Devita, who I met in Clifton, New Jersey, back when I had my it was my third ID.4. It was the Moonstone Gray all-wheel drive. I was on my way back from Florida, going up to Connecticut. I pulled into the Clifton EA station, and there was this gentleman and his lovely wife there, and they had this ID.4 right there, which is a 2021 first edition, and they were trying to figure out how to charge it, and they couldn't figure it out. So I went over and I helped them, and we started talking. And now Peter has an amazing career, something that I'm fascinated with. He was a lieutenant in the Newark Police Department for many years. He's been retired now for quite a few years. He's the golf coach at the local high school here in New Jersey. And we're going to go for a ride with him in a little bit and get to know Peter. So again, welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave, and let's get into it, folks. Peter, it's good to see you again.
Same here.
It's been quite a long time since we met. I look forward to hearing your story today about how you got into this car and a little bit about you. So if you wouldn't mind, could you take me a little bit around your car and tell me a little bit about this?
Absolutely. Yeah, we purchased this in 2021. I was considering buying an electric car only because of what you've been hearing, that we're going to that in the future. So when I first saw the ID.4, I wasn't one that put a deposit down. So I went to the local dealer, and there were 5 of them there. So that'll tell you how early it was in the actual presentation of the car. So I said, well, let me go take one out. And I fell in love with it immediately because I just love the torque. I love the idea of not having to go to a gas station. And this was before the gas prices went up. So finally, my wife and I decided, because we wanted to replace the car that we had with something that was more modern, had more features to it, safer. And at that point, as I said, nobody had really taken these cars and really were running to get them. So there were plenty of them to be had. So at that point, I said, let me just pick what I like. So
that's amazing that they were just sitting on the lot.
They were just sitting on the lot.
That's crazy.
Just sitting on the lot. Matter of fact, he was just happy that somebody was there to even look at them.
Boy, have things changed.
Have things changed.
This was when, Peter?
This was just before Memorial Day of 2021.
My goodness, that's not even a year and a half ago.
Right, exactly. Just before. It was just before everybody decided that it was something they were going to start jumping on, because I even had it discounted. I didn't even have to pay MSRP. So that'll tell you how early that part was.
Wow.
So anyway, we bought the car, and we never did trade in my wife's car, because at that point I said, maybe we should have a gas and an electric car at the same time, just in case I had range anxiety.
Right.
And so we bought it, and we've been using it primarily because as soon as we got it, the gas prices started to go up probably about 5 months after that.
Now, when you were at the dealer, this is a first edition, correct?
First edition.
And did they have any other editions, or this
No.
was all they had?
No,
so at that time,
had.
this is all they had.
This is all
and
they
that
had.
was actually a real good, if I remember correctly, that was a really good value.
Right.
Because it included the glass roof. You got the nice interior with the white wheel. I think it also included the trailer hitch. That was
Yes.
something that was...
It was about $3,500 worth of options that came with the car that were not included in the price. So basically the price of the car was $45,100.
Right.
Again, I got it discounted. At the time, they didn't even know how the $7,500 federal tax credit worked. They were so confused with it that I had to explain it to
but
them.
and meanwhile, they've been selling the e-Golf for a while.
As it turned out, we didn't even buy the car from that dealership because my daughter has been buying Volkswagens from a dealership a little further away. Called him up, and I said to him, I says, I'm looking for an ID.4. Do you have one? He says, oh yeah, I have 3 of them here. There was one in the showroom, one outside, and then one that they were expecting to come in. So I says, look, I'm trying to buy one. The only thing is, will you discount it? Oh yeah, absolutely. Come on in. So I went in. He was going to actually get the car from the dealership up here in Sussex County for me, which was a white car, but he wasn't going to be able to discount that as much as he could with the one that was in the showroom.
Right.
So I said, no problem, I'll take the blue. So we got it. We were the very first customers that ever bought an ID.4 from them. Mm-hmm. So that even when he was showing me the car, he was clueless as to what basically the features were in the car.
Right.
So I'm showing him, again, from what I learned from Kyle, I'm showing him what he needed to know in order to be able to pass that information on to other customers.
Right.
I get home with the car. My neighbor across the street loved it as soon as I came down the street with it. He says, where'd you get that? What is it? So we went out for a ride. He immediately went out and bought one.
No way. Is that
Immediately
right?
went out
Wow.
and bought one. He bought a white one.
Uh-huh.
One of the people that he works with came over the next week. He immediately fell in love with the car. He ran out and bought one.
Isn't that crazy?
So now there's 3 of us that have them. And then my neighbor's mother and father didn't get in on the first level of these cars. They wanted an all-wheel drive. So they put an order in, and they just picked theirs up maybe about 3 months ago.
Okay.
So they were still able to get the $7,500.
Right.
And theirs is silver or gray, whatever it is, but it's an all-wheel drive model. So basically, out of this one car, 4 cars were sold.
Isn't that crazy? Now this car, what size wheels are on this car?
These are 20s.
These are the, okay, see these are the nice wheels. And yeah, I like this in blue. I really like it. And the interior, let me see that real fast, because I mean, Volkswagen just did a great job here. So yeah, what's interesting is you have the darker interior seats, but the signature white steering wheel on the first edition is quite interesting.
Also the bigger screen. This has the bigger screen.
Oh yeah.
This is a 10-inch, I think it is, or 12. It's the bigger screen.
Right. I think it was 12.4.
Might have been 12.
Yeah. I think I don't know why I remember that number. That looks really good. Well, excellent. You know, so let's why don't we go for a little drive, because what
Absolutely.
I want to learn about, Peter, is why you even had an interest in looking at an electric vehicle. Like what was in your mind, and we want to learn more about you. I also want to hear a little bit about your just in terms of how you charge this, how you live with it, because I met you at that Electrify America station a while back, and Carol, your wife, just said to me, yeah, that was the only time we ever went to an Electrify America. So you're not road tripping with this, so you're just using it as a daily driver, and you're able to charge it here. But look at this, Kyle, check it out. The out of spec sticker somehow on there. I wonder who sent that to you. All right, well, why don't we jump in, go for a ride, and continue our chat?
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
And I played guard, and we were playing against Power Memorial. Does that ring a bell?
No.
Okay. Well, we're playing against Power Memorial, which is a New York school. This was a Catholic school in Newark. We get to Power Memorial, and the center is Lou Alcindor.
Oh,
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, no.
And I'm barely 6 foot tall, right? And I took a shot that I don't think the ball ever left my hand, because it's all I saw was the ball going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
When he just swatted it away. And I took one more shot, which he swatted away. And that was the last shot I took. I said, I'm just going to pass to anybody else but me.
Oh, that's hysterical.
He was so big. Our center was 6'4", and he was 7'1".
Oh, you know, before we talk a little bit about your this car and how you're doing with it, I wanted to learn a little bit about you in particular, and you know, where did you grow up, and were you into cars? Were you into motorcycles? Were you a gearhead? Tell me a little bit about yourself, because I don't really know, and we've been talking a lot.
Right.
And I enjoy our chats when we do talk, but I don't know that much about you. So tell me a little bit.
Well, I'm probably the opposite of everybody who's been speaking to. My family didn't even own a car. I lived in a housing project, which was not your typical 10-story housing project. It was like a 2-story housing project. But most of the people in there did not own cars. This was back in the 50s. Car ownership probably wasn't what it is, obviously, now. And we really didn't have any place to park, even if you did own a car.
Where was this?
This was in Newark.
Okay.
This was in Newark. We pretty much took mass transit. There was buses. There's a subway in Newark, believe it or not.
And just for purposes, people who are not familiar with Newark, that's in New Jersey.
That's in New Jersey.
It's right, basically a major metropolitan city right outside of New York City, Manhattan, right?
Exactly. It's pretty much, it's the largest city in New Jersey.
Right.
It's not the capital, but it's the largest city in New Jersey.
Okay.
And as I said, almost everybody that I know that lived in that area with me did not own vehicles.
Right.
So when I'm 17 years old, obviously I'm getting to the point where I'm going to start to drive. I want a car. So anyway, the first car that my family owned was my car. That was the very first car.
Okay.
So now, didn't have much money, so I'm looking around. I wound up with a 1949 Buick Roadmaster.
Oh, wow.
As big as a house. As big as a house.
Oh, man.
And I'm gonna drive that vehicle to high school at the end, and then to college, because I first started college before I went to the Air Force. So anyway, here I'm driving this monster car, and the windshield wipers used to crap out on it, and I'd have to reach underneath the dashboard because it had like a way that you could actually manually move them.
Really?
Yeah, actually manually move them. And I remember being on the parkway in a bad rainstorm, and I'm reaching under the dashboard to move the windshield wipers because they decided to stop
Isn't that
working.
crazy?
So,
oh man!
So
I don't think you could do that in a Tesla.
No, no.
I'm just saying. My theory is you can't do that in a Tesla. I don't think so.
I don't think you're doing it in anything.
No,
anymore.
I don't think so.
But
That's crazy.
so that was the very first car.
Right.
So then, obviously, that wasn't going to last long. I called it the Battleship because all the paint had worn off of it.
Right.
So it looked like gunmetal gray. It looked like a battleship.
Okay.
And as big as it was very noticeable. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So I'm driving this thing, and then finally it decided to crap out. So then I started pretty much when I was a sophomore in high school to caddy. I did a lot of caddying, but most of the time I was doing it to raise money so that I can eventually buy a better car.
Right.
So finally, when I had enough money, I bought a 1961 Plymouth Fury, which, again, if you kind of see what they look like, I could touch my rear window like this. The rear window was so big in the back that it stretched all the way where I didn't even have to reach very far in order to reach it. It was a very sloped car.
Right.
But it was newer.
Uh-huh.
You know, at that point, it was only like maybe 7, 8 years old.
Right.
So that was something. So then I'm driving this, and then, as I said, I went into the Air Force. So when I left to go to the Air Force, my mother didn't even have a license.
Mm-hmm.
My father had passed away a long time ago. So she's now left with the car because I can't take it with me to basic training.
Yeah.
So I get down in basic training. Next thing I hear, I'm talking to her over the phone, and she says, "I'm thinking of getting a license." I went, "Ma, you never had a car. Now you're going to go get a license, and now then I'm not there,
right,
to help you."
Right.
She said, "Well, what am I going to do with your car?" I said, "Well, it's true, I guess. So go ahead, get a license." So she winds up getting a license. I come back from basic training. Now she doesn't want to give me my car back. She said, "Oh, I really love it. Now I'm used to driving a car now. I don't have to go on a bus."
Freedom.
Freedom.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no doubt. And did you have brothers or sisters?
No.
Oh, so it was just you, your mom, your dad. That was it.
My dad was passed away.
He had passed away
when I was 3.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When I was 3.
Interesting. Okay.
So, it's, now she's deciding she's going to learn how to drive.
Wow.
So now she's driving the car, and I said, "Well, I got to get something." And at the time, I really wanted to upgrade a little bit anyway. So I bought a 1967 Volkswagen Beetle.
Okay.
Brand new.
Right.
I had ordered it, but now there's a dock strike in Newark. The car that I ordered didn't come. They couldn't get it off the boat, which would have been blue with a white top convertible.
Oh, wow.
$2,200. $2,200.
Oh.
So I said, "Well, I got to have a vehicle because I was stationed in Washington, D.C.
Right.
I wanted to drive home to New Jersey. I said, I got to get something that I can drive." So I said, "Well, what do you have?" He says, "Well, I have just a regular Beetle." I says, "Fine, that's good enough." At this point, I needed a vehicle, which was red. I get the car. Now I'm driving that back and forth from New Jersey to Washington, D.C., not knowing that even brand new, they don't have much of a heater. They absolutely have no air conditioning.
Right.
But as far as a heater goes, good luck.
Right.
So now the winter comes, and I would be...
Well, wasn't that an air-cooled engine?
Air-cooled.
Yeah, in the rear.
In the rear.
Yeah.
In the rear.
My dad had a couple of them. I remember he had the same vintage. He had a yellow convertible, and the running boards, remember the running boards on it?
Yes.
Those were hanging on by wire, by literally,
I believe it.
Like, and he would drive that thing into Manhattan.
Ooh.
From, it's a crazy story, but anyway, so I know the car.
Yeah. Well, so you know that the heat doesn't work.
Right.
So I would carry a blanket when I was driving back to Washington in the winter. I'd have a blanket on, and I had a scraper. But the scraper wasn't for the outside, it was for the inside.
Oh, no, that's bad.
Because
That's bad.
it would freeze up on the inside.
Yeah.
Now, this is a brand new car.
Oh, no.
It's a brand new car. So now I'd be going along. It took about 4 hours to get to Washington. I'm scraping the windshield.
Right.
To be able to see outside.
Yeah.
I'd get there, and people would be like, what are you doing? I said, well, I came through a snowstorm. I came through all kinds of conditions driving back here. I said, it's frozen inside the car. So that was my first experience of a Volkswagen. And I had that for a considerable amount of time. But then I wanted to upgrade that a little bit.
Now, just a quick question before you continue. Do you have to do that with the ID.4? Scrape the inside of the windshield?
Oh, I hope not. Jeez, I hope not. If that's the case,
you're putting it up.
I'm putting it up for sale. Yeah, it's going up for sale tomorrow.
Yeah,
now, so far the car has been
so
very
Volkswagen's made a lot of improvements over the years, for sure.
Especially when they got rid of the rear wheel engine.
Yeah, I hear you. It
ran well in snow. I can tell you that because I had.
Well, you had the weight over the.
Had all the weight in the back.
Yeah, it's the 911 effect.
All the weight in the back.
Yeah. So what did you have then after the VW? You were in at that point in time.
Still in Washington.
Still in Washington.
I bought an AMC at the time. It was called Rambler.
Oh no.
Javelin.
Oh yeah.
Javelin.
I remember that car.
A Javelin, which 3 shift on the floor, 3-speed, and I thought I was in heaven at that point because I actually had heat, no air conditioning.
American Motors Corporation.
Exactly.
Yeah, AMC. Remember the Gremlin?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. What the ugliest car they ever...
The Javelin, the Gremlin, what else did they make? I forget.
They had a couple. I mean, it was on its way out. The company was on its way out by the time I bought the Javelin. I think maybe had another 5 to 8 years before it finally went out of business.
Right.
But that one at least, as I said, that one you could at least say you had a car.
Right.
You had something there. And then I thought, well, I got to upgrade this so I can have some air conditioning. So I bought a 1968 Pontiac Firebird.
Oh.
So now this is it. This is cool. I got air conditioning. Drive that back and forth to DC. So I'm driving this thing, and the air conditioner is not working well. I got to get a car with better air conditioning.
So wait, you like me? If the air conditioner doesn't work, rather than fix the air conditioner, it's time for a new car.
Time for a new car.
I get that. I get that.
No
Peter.
question.
I understand that.
Yeah,
You and I get that.
42 cars later, you can understand it.
You have 42 cars?
42 cars.
Oh, that's a nice amateur attempt.
42
that's okay.
cars. I know. That's 2 years for you, but that's another story.
That is another story. I'm not sure I like this crown.
So anyway, I finally decide I'm going to trade it in. I traded in. I got what did I get? I got a Dodge. So now I go back for service, and I said to the guy at the salesman, I said, "Where is my car?" Because it was only like maybe about a week later that I went in there.
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, we had a problem with your car." I says, "What?" He says, "Well, the salesman was out showing the car, and the water that I guess goes through the dashboard for the air conditioning and whatever it is, it exploded.
Oh.
And shot hot burning water with the antifreeze all over the salesman, all over his legs.
I think that just happened to Kyle in a certain car.
Did it? Well,
yeah, he's got this old Range Rover, and I think the same exact thing just happened to him.
Well, I felt...
That's a mess.
It was a mess. I mean, the car was totaled at that point because all that stuff shot
this is your car in for service?
No, my car after I traded it in.
Oh, okay.
After I traded it in, and I just went back to the dealer that I had traded it into, just to do something for the car that I had just purchased. Because I don't know if you remember, back when you bought a car back then, there was a list about 10 miles long of the things that are broken in it, even though it's brand new. So that's when I asked, "Where's my car?"
Right.
And he says, "Well, we had an incident where all the water came shooting out of the dashboard.
I see.
Luckily, it didn't shoot all over the customer that was looking to buy it,
right,
but it went all over the salesman. So that was the end of that car. Luckily, I had gotten rid of it in time.
Yep.
But I mean, the reliability of cars back in the 60s and 70s, is not even close to what they are now.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you took a ride and you were going, let's say you were going down the Jersey Shore, you weren't sure whether you were going to actually get there. And that, even if it was brand new, you weren't really sure you were going to get there. Most of the time they overheated before you got there. So back, and that's a little bit different than what you experience now, but just the types of cars, the newer used, that didn't make a difference. The reliability just wasn't there.
Oh yeah. No, and the EVs now, they have, here, cute little Mini right there.
Yep.
The EVs are super reliable,
Absolutely.
and I see the foreshadowing maybe as, we'll say, check the box as to why there might be an interest in electric vehicles. A lot less to go wrong.
That's right.
Right? So
right.
Okay, so now you were at the time, is this when you were in the Air Force?
Yes.
Because
yes.
I wanna ask you, you were in the Newark Police Department as a lieutenant for a number of years.
Right.
And tell me about that experience, because I can tell you that from watching the evening news, there's a lot of things that go on in Newark, New Jersey. What was that like? And were you driving around in a car, or what were you doing?
Well, like everybody who starts the department, you always start with either walking, or they team you up with somebody who has some experience.
Right.
Well, at the time we went in, I'll give you an example. 1974 is when I started. I graduated the academy on Labor Day.
Okay.
I'm having a party at my house on Sunday of Labor Day. All of a sudden, I hear sirens. I lived in Newark. I heard a lot of sirens, but you hear sirens all the time in Newark. You don't think anything of it. All of a sudden, a knock at the door, and I'm in the back. Somebody comes out and says, "There's a sergeant looking for you." And I said, "Why?" He said, "I don't know." So I go to the door. He says, "Are you Devita?" I went, "Yeah." He says, "Well, get your gun and your badge and come with me." And I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. I said, "Why?" He says, "Well, there's a riot in the park," which I live right near the park.
Oh.
He says, and this is Labor Day. So now I get my gun belt and my badge, and I stick it on my t-shirt, put my gun belt on, get in the car, about maybe about 3 miles away from the house, let's say.
Okay.
There's about 5,000 people fighting with the police. Gunshots, cars on fire.
Oh.
I said, I didn't even get to the first precinct that I was assigned to yet. I hadn't even.
You hadn't showed up for day one?
I haven't shown up for day one yet.
Oh, right? My goodness.
And this is starting to happen. I said, well, this is crazy. I mean, here I did 4 years in the Air Force, and I didn't experience that. And during the Vietnam era, I didn't experience that.
Oh.
So anyway, we get there, and they brought all the people who were rioting in the park in like the Pied Piper through Newark down to City Hall to speak to the mayor. Well, I guess one of the people who was in charge of the Labor Day party that was going on, he went in to speak to the mayor. Well, they didn't like what they heard from the mayor. So now they decided to break all the windows on Broad Street in Newark.
Oh.
So again, I'm just standing there in my shorts and my gun belt, and I have nothing. So now they're handing me a baton to try to quell the riot that's going on. At the same time, I'm not even dressed in a police uniform.
Oh boy.
So that happened, and then by that nighttime, they assigned us with shotguns to go to the real projects, and they were shooting at us from the real projects. So this went on for 3 days. The only thing that really solved this was we had a major thunderstorm. It rained for like a whole day, and that seemed to be enough to quiet everything down.
So Mother Nature had to come in.
Mother Nature had to come in.
Oh.
So all of us who had basically had gone to the police academy, who lived in the Newark area, were all on duty before we even...
That's an indoctrination like
Exactly.
never ever anyone experienced.
You can't
before.
have that happen. And everybody said to me, "You were in the Puerto Rican riot?" I went, yeah.
Oh,
first
my
day.
Goodness.
First day. So it was an introduction to what was going to happen for the next 25 years. Let's put it that
and so
way.
you were with the Newark Police Department for how long?
25 years.
25 years.
25 years.
Wow.
Yep.
Any car chases?
Hundreds.
Hundreds?
Hundreds of car chases.
Really?
The worst part is, as you're a police officer, it seems like it's glamorous, I want to say. You know, that you're chasing the car, you eventually catch them and all this other stuff. But now when you become a sergeant, it's a whole nother ballgame, because now it's your responsibility as a sergeant as to what happens if there's an accident, if somebody gets injured. So now it's a whole nother ballgame. You're not the person who's enjoying the chase. You're the person that's responsible for whatever happens in the chase.
I see.
So now once I make sergeant, it's like, hold on, what are you chasing them for? You know, is there a reason you're chasing them? Is it just a stolen car? You know, because there were guidelines from the Attorney General's office that basically dictated whether you could chase these vehicles or not.
Right.
When we first got on the job, there were none. You just did what you needed to do. But then as it went along, there were definitely guidelines.
They entered guidelines in.
What you can do and what you couldn't do.
Right.
So at that point, as a sergeant, I would immediately break off the chase. Break it off unless we know that they've committed a crime, you witnessed it, whatever the case is, or you got somebody who's in the car that's being held captive. There were reasons you can chase, but there were definitely reasons you couldn't chase.
Wow.
So that was like a whole different experience, you know, from police officer.
Yeah, well, now you got responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
and it's on you.
Yes.
So now throughout your career, I'm just curious about the types of cars that the Newark Police Department used.
Yeah.
Were they like a Ford shop or a Dodge shop, or what happened?
We had whatever was on sale.
Whatever was on sale. And you didn't check into like gas mileage or things like that? No. Okay.
The first cars I remember were fairly big. They were Chevys.
Right.
Then when Chevy probably upped the price, we went to Dodge.
Okay.
Then when Dodge probably did the same, we went to Ford.
Right.
Then the one I really remember was when we had a Chevy 2. It was a Chevy 2, which was small.
Uh-huh.
Now, a police car needs to have some size to it because you have prisoners in the back.
Yeah.
Well, we had a Chevy 2 that literally the prisoners couldn't fit. Neither could the officers fit in the front because we had the cage between us. So we were squeezed in like sardines. The prisoners would have to lay down in the back, and we were like squeezed in like we couldn't even get in the car. And this was, so we had them for about a year. You know, we didn't want to take care of them very well because we wanted to get rid of them as soon as possible. And then they finally went to, we had, I guess it was Plymouths that we had. So even the siren that we were using had a foot pedal. So it wasn't like your typical, what you see now, you flip the switch, the siren goes on, the lights, and everything.
Right.
We had a foot pedal that you would actually push on the foot pedal to make it go louder or softer.
Huh.
I mean, it was literally like driving in the 1920s. I mean, but when you're in a large department, they don't have the budget.
Yeah.
The smaller departments have. Many vehicles that break down, many vehicles that get in accidents. You know, so you're always driving something that is not exactly up to code.
Right. Now you started off the rankings. Explain, because I'm not too familiar with that. I love the police. I respect the police, but I don't really know that much about the police. So like, what is it? Tell me how that.
So you start out as a regular police officer. Depending on what your duties are, you could eventually maybe become a detective if that's. It's not a promotion. It's just a rank.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a promotion. It's just an assignment.
I see.
So you can do that. I was picked to be on the motorcycles. So I went on the motorcycles back in 1981.
Oh, wow.
I did that for 7 years. I really, really enjoyed that. That was almost like they paid me to do this.
Were those Harleys?
We had Harleys when I trained. We had Harleys my first 6 months, but these were the AMC Harleys. If you remember the
AMF?
AMF, excuse me.
Right,
AMF. AMF Harleys.
Right, I remember Brunswick, like all of that.
Brunswick.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right, Brunswick.
So they leaked oil.
Okay.
Profusely.
Yeah.
Leaked oil. They were not reliable. So anyway, back then Chips was on
I
the air.
love Chips.
So here they have Chips, and everybody in California was driving Kawasaki's.
Oh yeah.
So we convinced the chief to go look at the Kawasaki's, telling him that they're quicker, they're cheaper, they're more reliable. So now we finally went and got the Kawasaki. So I was driving the Chips mobile, literally like what you saw on TV.
Oh, that's great.
And
those were big bikes, weren't
they were 1,000 cc, where the Harley was 1,200 cc.
Okay, the Harley.
But the Harley rode well, but not in the city. It's so heavy.
Right.
And we're having to weave through traffic.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about bumper-to-bumper traffic in the downtown area. You need something that's quick. You need something that you can move and maneuver quickly, where the Kawasaki was perfect for that.
Right.
So I was on that until literally I got, well, I guess at the very end, I had finally passed the sergeant's test. And I said, well, now I'm going to have to leave the motorcycles, which was one of the reasons I didn't want to become a sergeant. But anyway, I finally was transferred once I did receive the rank of sergeant. And then I started working in the precinct. And I did that for about a year. And then I was lucky enough to get called to go work in the police director's office, which I did for the remainder of my career, which was about another, I guess about another 7 or 8 years.
And what did that involve?
Well, basically that involved whatever duties that the director wanted you to do. You're working in his office. Now for me, first thing I was there to do was to answer any of the complaints and things that came into the director's office. Go speak to the people.
Right.
Try to, and then go to meetings. A lot of meetings that came up where there was something that the community wanted to know what the police were going to do. So I would go to the community meetings. So then there was a case where one of the people who was the spokesman for the police department took a leave of absence. So now all of us, he took a leave of absence like quickly.
Spokesman meaning like public, like
public.
when the press calls.
This is when the press calls.
Okay.
This is the newspapers. This is mostly the New York media.
Right.
There's always something going on. Every day I had to go in front and speak to the media.
Oh wow.
So now I got thrown into that like I had never done it, but I said, well, I guess I got to try and see what I can do. So I get there, and again, just like the Puerto Rican riot, the first major thing that happened was the first day I was there, where there was a batch of heroin that was being sold, and it was under the label of Cagney and Cash. It was like a show that used to be on.
Cagney and Lace?
Well, it was Cagney and Cash, but then Cagney and Lace.
Okay, right. So yeah.
they used to label.
They played with the game. They played with the name.
Yeah, they played with the name, and they had it written on the labels of the heroin packages that they were giving out. Well, they were bad heroin, and people were dying from it.
Boy.
So, of course, it was a major story. New York media was there. National media was there. This is my first day.
Oh,
my first day, and I'm dealing with all the media that's pouring in and asking me questions that I'm only ad-libbing from what I saw on television.
This is a winery here.
It's a winery. Yep.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this is a winery out here.
That's nice.
And so anyway, I'm put into that position, so I had to learn on the fly as quickly as I possibly can.
Oh,
and then of course there was the newspapers and things like that you had to speak to.
Did you know how to ride a motorcycle? Or did you just you were attracted to it and said, I'll learn?
I knew it, but I didn't know the way you needed to ride a police motorcycle.
I see.
You know, I owned a small 350. I had a license.
Okay.
I had to be trained.
Right.
And training was extensive.
After you retired, which has now been 25 years,
25
and
years.
you say you're retired, but you're also now the golf coach
Of a high school.
of a high school here in New Jersey.
Right.
And so that you're staying active, you're involved. How does that tie into where you're at right now? You know, with this whole electric vehicle, like
Absolutely.
back in 2012 when the Model S came out, were you even aware of that, or like what were you doing? Watching it from afar?
I was watching it. My reservation about I don't think I'm ready for that. I didn't really need it because, again, I'm not commuting.
Right.
So I said, I don't know if I really need it.
Plus, back then they were super. I mean, they're still expensive, but back then they were really expensive.
Exactly.
So
exactly. I said it wasn't to my lifestyle at that point. I said, I don't think I really need it.
So what was the first EV that you said, hey, wait a minute, that's something that maybe is affordable, and I could fit into my life?
We're driving it.
This is it. So
we're driving it.
So really, after seeing like the Nero, the Kona, none of that really.
No.
Okay. Interesting.
No, it didn't. I looked a little bit when the BMW came out with
i3.
The i3.
Yeah.
Because it was a pretty good lease you can get on. It was like a $299, something like that.
And those cars were not cheap. They were like $55,000.
Yeah. And I said, well, the range of it wasn't that great, but I knew I didn't need a long range. So I said, well, maybe I can fit that. But then I said, it's...
And the Model 3 you mentioned earlier, Tesla just didn't do it. Model 3, Model Y, you just, okay.
No, none of them really got me excited about it. When I saw this, and again, as we were speaking before, I was looking at it, and then I just went on YouTube, like everybody goes on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I started to see things about electric vehicles. I wound up watching your son's videos.
Right, yeah, that's right, you mentioned that.
And at that point, he was really interested in the ID.4. But
I remember Kyle used to say, it just makes me happy.
Yeah.
Right? Remember that?
Right,
and,
exactly.
And it was like, who says that about a car? But you know what? It truly did make him happy.
Right.
It was a good-looking car, and still, it's a great car. I enjoy this. So
that's
nice being back in an ID.4, to be honest.
That's what kind of got me at least thinking about it.
Right.
So I went to the local dealership that had just opened up, and he had 5 of them.
Yeah, that's what you were saying earlier.
5 of them there. And I said, well, let me take one out. He had one that you can take out for a ride.
Yeah.
And it was this model, which is the first edition.
Yeah.
It was white. And I really liked the pictures of it. I said, let me bring my wife out and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we went over to look at it. But the thing was, I was thinking at that point of trading in the vehicle that I had.
Right.
He didn't want to give me enough that I thought it was worth it to trade it in.
I see.
So now I'm considering, well, did I do it? Did I not do it? So finally I decided I'm not going to trade in the vehicle. But at the same time, I still want the ID.4.
Right.
So because it was to the point nobody was really that interested in at that point. What is this man doing?
He's walking very slowly.
Very slowly. You don't want to be on target, does he? So
that was strange.
Like,
look, you've seen a lot of strange things.
This is Blairstown. This is where they filmed.
That was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is where they filmed one of the Halloween movies.
Was that a zombie?
I think so.
What was that?
I think it was.
What the heck? Wait a minute. I want to go back to Connecticut.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, yeah, that was different.
Yeah.
So anyway, I decided, since I can get a $7,500 credit.
Yeah.
I can get unlimited, I can get 3 years of free gas. The vehicle has very little upkeep. It has all the safety features that my wife was thinking that she wanted.
Yeah.
And myself. And I said, well, and if nothing else, it's new technology. That's the wave of the future. Let me start thinking about maybe this is the direction I should go. So I went back, as I was explaining to you, the sales manager knew nothing.
Right, yeah.
Nothing about the car.
Yeah.
Didn't know what the $7,500 was all about.
Yeah.
Was telling me I had to get a lease in order to get the $7,500 credit, which I'm telling her, no, I don't.
Yeah,
she knew nothing.
So much misinformation.
She knew nothing. So anyway, I finally contacted a different dealer that my daughter got her vehicle from, and he had a couple of them there. He says, come on in, we'll discount it. I says, fine. So I went down there, we test drove the car, my wife test drove the car. I says, this is perfect. I love the turning radius.
Oh, yeah, this is a rear-wheel drive?
Rear-wheel drive.
Oh, this has the tightest turning radius of any car I've ever driven before.
I can turn on a two-lane road.
It's unbelievable. I don't know what the statistic is, but I know that when I got rid of my rear-wheel drive ID.4, the second one, and I got into the all-wheel drive, it considerably faster. No doubt.
Yeah.
And I like that. but I miss that turning radius.
Oh, it's amazing.
You know, it's just, oh.
I do it in front of people just to have their mouths open up. They go,
It's just amazing.
Amazing how quickly and how easily it can turn.
I know. So now tell me, at home, how do you charge this car? Do you have a level 2?
No,
just a 110?
Just the 110.
Yeah, honestly, that's all we have at our house.
Yeah,
you know?
I do. I'm thinking about it only because I think in the long run, it'll up the value of my home just to have it in the house.
Yeah,
it's not like I'm putting out money that I'm not eventually going to get back. And my neighbor, who I told you, who also bought the ID.4 after I showed it to him, he has a level 2 there. So it is nice to be able to get 40 miles in an hour on a charge.
It is, yeah.
But as he said to me, he says, you know, you could always come and use mine.
Yeah, that's
if you
true.
really need it. And
well,
I said,
let's put them on plug share.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I was thinking about also is with the amount of cars that I have bought and sold, EVs, over the last few years, it's almost worth me moving to New Jersey, because isn't it true that in the state of New Jersey there's no sales tax on EVs?
No sales tax.
That's just not fair, Peter.
I know.
That is, and on top of that, not only the $7,500, how much was the state giving you back?
$4,000.
Okay, so wait. That is worth moving to New Jersey for, especially, except for the zombie. You know, I mean, it's.
We have more of them in Newark if you want to go.
No, I'm a little freaked out about the zombie, but I mean, you think about it. Okay, you're getting $7,500. So let's say the car is the 39.9, right? When I remember when I bought my first rear-wheel drive ID.4 Pro, not the Pro S. $39,990. I think that included destination.
Yes.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yes.
Okay, so 40 grand, no sales tax, less 7,500, less 4,000.
It was 5,000 when you bought it.
5,000.
5,000.
So $12,500 off the price of the car, $40,000. So you're talking about
$28,000.
$28,000 and 3 years of free charging.
Exactly.
Okay, so when the government says today the average price of the EV is like 60 grand, and a lot of that is just, yes, inflation, and yes, there are expensive EVs now. We've got, you know, obviously the high-end Teslas, and we got the Rivians, and we got the Lucids, but what happened to the equation here over the last 5 years? I mean, not even 5 years.
A couple years.
2 years.
Right, a couple years.
Right? You know, that's just crazy.
Well, that was what I considered when I was looking at it. I says, this vehicle is going to be cheaper than any SUV I can buy. And I'm going to have the gas. I'm not going to have gas.
Right.
I'm going to be able to charge if I want to charge.
And like back then, gas was still, you know,
it hadn't gone up.
And you didn't have the higher taxes on the gas in Jersey then. So you were under $2 a gallon.
Yeah, we were somewhere, about...
I remember like $1.99.
Yeah.
Over, you know, when you come across the Lincoln Tunnel and all those gas stations, or the Holland Tunnel. But, you know, like crazy deals. All right, so what's next? I know that I called you up and I was ribbing you. I'm like, Peter, you've had your car too long.
Exactly.
And I was like, you know, remember, because I said, Peter, you know this thing, you could flip this for a profit right now, and you know, and you've owned a lot of cars, so I'm talking to a pro here. I'm talking to someone who understands.
Right.
But you didn't pull the trigger.
Well,
why?
One of the reasons I didn't do it is because I like the car.
You like the car?
I like the car, which I was going to buy, and then I finally took your advice.
Yeah.
And I contacted the dealer, and my wife finally agreed. Yes, okay, we're going to do it. I went on Carvana after you had gone on Carvana.
Yeah.
And I looked up, and here the car I had bought for $44,100. They were offering me $45,000.
Okay.
So now not only am I ahead of what I paid, but of course I had all those rebates and all the subsidies and everything else. So I was way ahead.
So, like, to me, I'm done.
Exactly. So I did it.
Let's do that. Let's just rinse and repeat. Let's do that 10 times.
I did it. So now I contact the dealer, I get on a list, and then the government decides to change the formula. So now everybody who was ordering the 2022s, which is what I would have been getting, was a 2022, were all canceling their orders because you're not getting the $7,500 government subsidy anymore. It's gone. You have to now wait until 2023 to see if the car is first made in the United States.
Right, the ones down in where is it? In
Tennessee.
Tennessee, yeah.
And
Chattanooga.
Is the battery made in the United States?
I know.
So everybody who was ordering the 2022s all started to cancel their order. Now I'm thinking to myself, well, if I would have given the car to Carvana, I would have gotten my money.
Yeah,
but
now you don't have a car.
Well, I would have got a car, but I would have paid more.
Right.
I wouldn't have got the $7,500. I would have gotten now $4,000 comes back from the state.
Right.
And of course, there's still no sales tax. I certainly would have been ahead, but I was going to do what you did. Buy, sell, buy, sell,
right.
buy, sell.
Yeah.
And of course, they changed the formula, and it went into effect immediately as soon as they signed the bill.
I know. You know what? You know, we can say this here. Well, that was July, was it?
Right,
Or
right.
early August.
Right. July.
I'm now saying that's back in the day. Remember back in the day when it was fun,
Right.
and you could play this EV game. So if the government is trying to incentivize people,
I think they did it the exact opposite.
the opposite effect is happening here. And so there's so many stipulations as to whether or not a vehicle will even qualify, right?
Right.
You know, and I'm not so sure I disagree with the salary caps, like 150 or 300. I mean, you know, look, if you want to try and get these cars in the hands of you know, of the consumers, but you know, okay, maybe the people who are more wealthier, they maybe shouldn't be incentivized because they don't necessarily need to be incentivized.
Exactly.
Okay, so I see that logic, but here's the issue. If you got these cars now that are sitting on the lot, they're not going to now be pouring into the used car marketplace. So one of the things that Kyle is taking up just recently is, you know, this whole concept of, yeah, we're playing around with these expensive cars, 60,000, 100,000, whatever it is. But what about the used car marketplace? And in order to get these cars into the used car marketplace, they have to be bought new. And so who's going to be buying them new so that they can rotate in 3 years from now or 2 years from now at a discount? So I don't know, we could probably do a whole video just separate on the concept of tax, you know, tax incentives or disincentives and all of that. But so if you were going to flip the car though, were you just going to get another ID.4, or did something else catch your eye?
No, I still was. I like the ID.4 enough that I was going to stay with it. I would have gotten a different color just because. Yeah. Why not? Right. And then probably maybe I would have gotten the all-wheel drive.
Right.
But the main thing one of the things is it has more updates from the firmware.
Tell me about what's your situation.
Well, I have no problem with the firmware that it has. Right. But there's so many more features that came with the new firmware on the 2022s and 2023s that we were promised to get it, but we haven't gotten it yet.
So are you saying, is it because the 2021s are not capable of getting it, or?
I don't think that's the case, because it's firmware. I think it could be switched to us. We were told it would. The thing is, like you said, it doesn't have one pedal driving. Different features, like it extended the range on the new ones, have a little bit more range on it just from the firmware. Right. There's just updates that came with the new firmware that we're not getting yet.
How has the reliability of the UI, the graphical interface, have you had any issues with it? Or?
No, I've had a couple of glitches where one time I decided to clean under the hood, and maybe I got a wire wet or something. The horn went off and wouldn't go. Really? It wouldn't stop blowing, and then all of a sudden it stopped. Oh wow! But I think I might have got something wet because I was kind of cleaning. I'm a clean freak. Right. So that happened, and then once in a while I'll get some things appear on the console here where it's telling me that I should pull over.
Oh, I got that all the time.
So I did. I pulled over, got out of the car, got back in the car, and was gone.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know. The car would sometimes just like, I found it to be pretty finicky and almost to the point where it was entertaining, because what it was telling me was never anything of, you know, it didn't really matter.
No, it didn't matter.
Now, what about, do you use the app at all to precondition the car, or like if it's cold out? Or
I haven't.
So you don't have any really data points around it? No. Well, just so you know, Peter, when I had it and I was using the app, it was horrible.
That's what you were saying.
It was so bad. Yeah. Like I wanted it to work, I really did, but there were so many times that I would get up in the morning, I knew there was snow on the car. Okay, I got to jump in the shower before I get to work. Let me heat the car up. Right. I get out there, nothing. I'm talking about 5 out of 10 times. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work, and I don't know why. And I've heard from many people on the ID.4s. Look, let's hope that they get it right. You know, they're going to be building these cars down in Chattanooga now. They also are. They're going to be not that you're doing any DC fast charging, but the limitations of the 125, which the fastest I ever saw at a 350, actually at a 150, I wouldn't plug my ID.4 into a 350. That's a separate topic.
Sure.
You know, there's a lot of people that do, but now the ID.4s that are going to be coming off the assembly line, they're going to be charging upwards of 180 kilowatts.
Right.
So guess what? Now it does make sense, at least for that small peak period of time, to perhaps get onto a 350. But the world of you're not really living the world of DC fast charging.
I'd love to, but we don't have any.
Well, you're not traveling, you're not going away on road trips, and that's fine. But you know, we're going to be seeing some very interesting times over the next year to 3 years as the manufacturers catch up. So you know, one of the problems that you don't have here, because how far is Clifton from here? That's about
50 miles.
50 miles, and that's the closest EA.
No, the closest one is in Denville, which is probably about 25 miles.
So 25 miles. But think about this: if you have 3 free years of charging, right? What if you lived in Denville?
I'd love it.
What would you do?
I would charge.
You would charge there.
I would charge.
Right? And that's not really what the fast charging should be for. Like in your use case, you don't even have a level 2, nor do you even need a level 2. Right? But you just said behaviorally, because it's free, if you lived in Denville, you would go in there and charge there. And that's what's happening, is you get a lot of these manufacturers that are subsidizing the electric, Electrify America. Even my wife's GV60, the Ioniq 5 is 2 years. My Kathy's GV60 has 3 years. Personally, I like it, but I don't like it for the masses. So this is going to be an interesting transition as we start going into more of these concepts about charging and infrastructure. But listen, Peter, you've had a fascinating life, and you think about where you've come from, the projects in Newark, right? And I look where you live right now. You're in a beautiful home.
There's the horses.
And there's horses here. I mean, I'm very proud of you for what you've done. Thank you for serving your country. Thank you for, I can't imagine what kind of life you had living in as a police officer for 25 years in Newark. That's, I hate to say it, maybe it's wrong of me to say this, that is a very, very brave person to be able to live a life like that. And we need more people that will do that and choose to do that. And so I thank you, and I'm sure many other people will say thank you as well for your service to this country. And
I get more people saying that to me about the police than I do about the time that I served in the Air Force.
I mean, if anybody knows anything about Newark,
as soon as I say Newark, they go,
it's like,
Newark.
Wow, you actually chose to do that. It's like, so. But anyway, everyone, listen. Thank you for watching another episode of Out of Spec Dave with Peter. It's just such a great guy, a great story. And if anybody can make a transition over to electric vehicles, he's done it. I'm not advocating that it's right for everyone. It's not right for everyone. It's right for some people, maybe not for everyone. But listen, you've done it, and we appreciate your time.
Well, I'm not
today.
going back.
Well, there you go. There you go.
I'm hooked on EVs.
There you go. All right, everyone. Have a great one. Take care now.
Bye-bye.